I'm Gary G. I'm a mixed media artist. I primarily draw and create ceramics, but I do some acrylic and aerosol and ink paintings as well. This year, for the Meet the Artist 2021's All Star Edition, I am bringing a new piece I've created, and it's called Game Over. It's a ceramic and mixed media piece, kind of like a floating mobile of a basketball player, so to speak. I'll have a case up on the fourth floor of the library, and I'll also have a collection of some of my smaller ceramic pieces as well in that case. So this will actually be my third installment of Meet the Artist. My very first time was in 2014, and I kind of had like a breakout piece. At the time, it was called Untitled, but in the long run, it became known as Changing Faces. Um, and the way that I created that piece was no matter which side of the painting you turn it on, you would get a different painting or variation. And it was like 7 layers of images all compiled on top of each other. I did another Meet the Artist on the 30th anniversary. And the piece from that year that I felt like was my breakout piece was a piece called Free Fall. And that is a mixed medium drawing with a little bit of acrylic pastels and inks inside of those, and a little bit of aerosol as well, so spray paint. And it was just pretty much like it was a piece that I was working on throughout the year that was just hanging on my studio wall. And whenever I had excess paint or anything, I just needed to check the color, I just kept using this paper. And as the time went on, I just started seeing images transform on that. So that is how free fall came to be. It was just things freely falling on the paper. During the pandemic, travel's been kind of at a cease, and there was times where the work was uncertain, just like some of the civil unrest that even happened in our city. So during the pandemic, after the peaceful protest turned into the many riots, there was the aftermath. And I had the chance to actually paint an 11 panel mural on the boarded up windows of the Indiana Symphony, so at the Symphony Center. And I think that made a big difference, like talking to people along the way. I also was involved with the 18, as we've become known, working on the Black Lives Matter mural on Indiana Avenue. I did primarily the I in lives, and I had an assistant, Devin Fosco Kimbrough, another talented artist in the city. Um, and then I've also kind of managed in and working with like Tony Radford from not only the library, but in another artist collective called We Are Indie Arts. So working in these two collectives has also helped me. And I believe going back to school later in life at Ivy Tech in Heron locally has helped me as well. And starting this semester, I'll actually be an adjunct professor for Life and Object Drawing 1 at Ivy Tech. So it's kind of like full circle coming back. My mother was a big influence in my artistic growth. I've probably been drawing since I was 4 or 5 years old, consistently. By the time I was in the 6th grade, she brought me a professional art kit for Christmas, and I kind of mastered that kit. I won't say I mastered it, but it was before YouTube and social media and being online, so we kind of had to read the book. I remember I had an art teacher, Mr. Sullivan, took it back to him in the 6th grade, and he was kind of impressed. I did an oil painting of Sitting Bull. By junior high, I had an art teacher, Sharon King, who got me involved in the Saturday classes at Harris School of the Art. And then high school, I remember I had another teacher named Mr. Price, Wendell Price. He's still a pretty prominent artist, and he's been in Meet the Artist as well. I'm not sure if he's one of the All-Stars that may be back this year. But nationally, in my whole life, I tell people that my true artistic influence was J.J. Evans from Good Times. So kind of the bucket hats, the Kango is like from the hip hop side of me, but J.J. Evans from Good Times was an artistic influence. And then another influence of mine, Hector Del Campo, was a professor at Ivy Tech. He said, I like that answer, but J.J. Evans from Good Times didn't paint those paintings. You got to find out who did. So I found out it was Ernie Barnes. And Ernie Barnes was a professional football player turned professional artist who did all the elongated poses. So everything from Marvin Gaye's Sugar Shack, which is a inspirational painting in my life, to Curtis Mayfield's, I think, Midnight Caller, the Midnight DJ, and the '84 Olympics. So that's probably my biggest artistic influence throughout life. And also in addition to maybe Stanley and Jack Kirby. Sometimes it's dependent on the piece that I may want you to look in and see that sometimes I hide things in many layers, or there may be some reason subconsciously or consciously that's involved in that piece to try to draw the viewer in. But I just want the viewer to kind of form their own opinion and appreciate something that's outside the normal classical landscapes and portraiture.